The vast conference chamber of the Galactic Confederation hummed with nervous energy. Diplomatic representatives from thousands of species sat in carefully arranged seating, their collective anxiety palpable. Today marked a pivotal moment, the official first contact assessment of humanity. Dr. Zelex Varin, chief xenosociological analyst from the Andromeda cluster, adjusted his multispectral translation device. His crystalline exoskeleton shifted colors rapidly, a clear sign of extreme stress. Around him, holographic displays flickered with data streams about Earth, humanity's seemingly unremarkable solar system. The human species appears fundamentally unpredictable, Dr. Varin announced to the assembled council. Our preliminary research suggests they possess an cognitive flexibility that defies standard evolutionary models. The Confederation had spent decades studying Earth from a distance. Satellite observations, intercepted communications, and advanced quantum scanning had provided glimpses into human civilization. Yet nothing could have prepared them for the reality of direct interaction. Captain Elena Rodriguez represented humanity's first official diplomatic mission. She wasn't a typical diplomat by galactic standards. A former aerospace engineer with a background in extreme environment survival, she approached the conference with a blend of professional composure and barely contained curiosity. Representatives of the Galactic Confederation, she began, her translation matrix converting her words into a dozen simultaneous languages. We come in a spirit of mutual understanding and collaborative exploration. What happened next would become legendary in galactic historical archives. Instead of the formal, protocol-driven exchange everyone expected, Captain Rodriguez pulled out a small device from her pocket. It was a Rubik's Cube, a simple puzzle toy from human culture. With casual precision, she began solving it while continuing her diplomatic speech. The assembled aliens watched in stunned silence. The cube's complex color matching required simultaneous spatial, mathematical, and strategic reasoning. Her ability to maintain complex verbal communication while solving the intricate puzzle demonstrated a level of cognitive multitasking that was unprecedented. Dr. Varin's translation device actually malfunctioned momentarily, unable to process the simultaneous streams of information. When it rebooted, he realized the human had not only completed her diplomatic statement, but had also solved the three-dimensional puzzle without breaking her conversational rhythm. Fascinating, muttered Ambassador Krell from the Proxima Centauri delegation, his tentacular appendages wiggling in a gesture of profound respect. Humans appear to operate on multiple cognitive levels simultaneously. Captain Rodriguez finished her cube, looked up, and smiled. I hope this demonstrates our commitment to understanding complex systems, she said, setting the solved puzzle on the conference table. The diplomatic protocols that followed were anything but standard. Where other species might have demanded extensive legal frameworks and generations of careful negotiation, humans proposed something radical, a collaborative exploration initiative. We don't just want to understand your technologies, Rodriguez explained. We want to learn, adapt, and potentially collaborate in ways that benefit everyone. The Confederation's standard first contact procedures included extensive risk assessments, quarantine protocols, and carefully managed information exchanges. Humans, it seemed, were about to rewrite those entire protocols. What the aliens didn't realize was that Captain Rodriguez was just the first wave. Behind her stood an entire species of problem solvers, innovators, and adaptable thinkers who were about to transform galactic civilization in ways no one could predict. The first contact wasn't just a meeting between species. It was the beginning of a profound transformation that would challenge everything the Galactic Confederation thought they knew about intelligent life. And humanity was just getting started. The weeks following first contact transformed from diplomatic formality to something entirely unexpected. Where most species would have proceeded with cautious, measured interactions, humans approached the galactic community with an almost childlike enthusiasm mixed with remarkable technical brilliance. Dr. Zelex Varin found himself assigned as the primary liaison between human research teams and the Galactic Confederation's Scientific Council. What he initially perceived as a bureaucratic nightmare quickly became the most fascinating assignment of his 200-year career. Dr. Miranda Chin, a quantum engineering specialist from MIT, was the first to demonstrate the true depth of human adaptability. During a technology exchange conference, she encountered a Xyloxian quantum stabilization module, a piece of technology so complex that most species required specialized training just to understand its basic principles. Within hours, Miranda not only comprehended the module, but proposed 3 innovative modifications that improved its efficiency by 47%. The Xyloxian lead researcher, Professor Krint, was simultaneously horrified and impressed. You cannot simply reconfigure centuries of established technological paradigms. Krint protested, his iridescent membrane flickering with agitation. Miranda just smiled. Watch me. The human approach was never about respecting existing limitations. It was about seeing potential where others saw barriers. Each alien technology became a puzzle, a challenge to be understood, deconstructed, and reimagined. The Confederation's Technology Transfer Committee had strict protocols developed over millennia. These protocols typically required decades of careful review, multiple committee approvals, and extensive risk assessments. Humans seemed to view these as gentle suggestions rather than immutable laws. Captain Elena Rodriguez, now heading the Interstellar Adaptation Bureau, recognized this as a fundamental strength. We don't just adapt to new technologies, she explained during a pivotal council meeting. We transform them. One particularly memorable incident involved a Krellian communication crystal, a biological-technological hybrid that most species considered nearly incomprehensible. The crystal operated on quantum entanglement principles so complex that previous attempts to modify it had resulted in spectacular failures. Jake Martinez, a 29-year-old neural interface engineer from San Diego, approached the problem differently. Instead of trying to understand the crystal through conventional scientific methods, he brought in a team that included a musician, a maze designer, and a former video game developer. Their approach was holistic and unconventional. They didn't just study the communication crystal, they attempted to communicate with it using complex harmonic patterns and adaptive algorithmic structures inspired by musical composition and game design. The result was revolutionary. Not only did they successfully modify the communication crystal, but they also discovered an entirely new method of quantum information transfer that left the Galactic Confederation's top scientists speechless. Professor Krint summarized the growing sentiment: humans do not just learn. They reimagine entire fields of knowledge. The adaptation wasn't one-sided. As humans learned about alien technologies, they simultaneously shared their own unique innovations. Simple human concepts like crowdsourcing, hackathons, and open-source collaboration began transforming how the galactic scientific community approached problem-solving. Traditional alien research institutions, which had operated with rigid hierarchical structures for millennia, started adopting more flexible human-inspired models. Collaborative platforms emerged where researchers from different species could contribute simultaneously, breaking down long-standing disciplinary and cultural barriers. Dr. Varin, watching these transformations, realized something profound. Humanity wasn't just adapting to the galactic community, they were fundamentally reshaping its core operational principles. They don't see limitations, he recorded in his personal log. They see opportunities waiting to be discovered. The Galactic Confederation was beginning to understand that first contact with humans wasn't just a meeting between two civilizations. It was the dawn of a new era of collective innovation. And they had only just begun to scratch the surface of human potential. The Galactic Research Nexus had never experienced anything like the human invasion of scientific thought. What began as a controlled technology exchange quickly evolved into a hurricane of innovation that swept through established scientific paradigms. Dr. Amara Okonkwo stood at the center of one of the most groundbreaking research teams in galactic history. A biotechnology specialist with a background in environmental engineering, she represented the new breed of human researchers, interdisciplinary, fearless, and perpetually curious. The current project focused on adaptive biomorphic technologies, a field that had been stagnant for centuries. Most species approached biological adaptation with caution, creating complex systems that took generations to develop. Humans, predictably, had a different approach. We're not just trying to modify existing systems, Amara explained to the bewildered research consortium. We're creating living technologies that can reshape themselves in real time. Her team included a diverse group that defied traditional scientific categorization. There was Marcus, a former video game designer who brought concepts of adaptive programming. Elena, a marine biologist with expertise in extreme environment survival. Kai, a quantum computing specialist with a background in neural network design. Their target was the synaptic flux regulator, a biological-technological hybrid that most species considered nearly impossible to modify. Previous attempts had resulted in catastrophic failures, with entire research facilities destroyed by unexpected quantum cascades. The human approach was breathtakingly simple yet revolutionary. Instead of trying to control the system, they designed an adaptive framework that could learn and respond to changes in real time. Marcus introduced a concept from game design, procedural generation. Think of it like a game world that creates itself, he explained. The technology doesn't just respond to changes. It anticipates and creates new possibilities. Their first prototype looked nothing like traditional scientific equipment. It was a pulsing, almost organic structure that seemed to breathe and change color. When activated, it didn't just process information, it seemed to explore it, following unexpected pathways that no pre-programmed system would consider. The Galactic Research Council watched in a mixture of horror and fascination. Dr. Krint, still recovering from previous human-induced technological revelations, could only mutter, "This is not science. This is madness." Amara just smiled. "We call it creative problem-solving." The breakthrough came during a seemingly routine test. The synaptic flux regulator encountered a complex quantum entanglement problem that had stumped researchers for decades. Instead of breaking down or producing an error, the device began to play with the problem. It generated multiple potential solutions simultaneously, creating a living algorithm that adapted and reshaped itself in milliseconds. What should have been a controlled experiment became a live demonstration of human-inspired technological evolution. The implications were staggering. This wasn't just a technological improvement. It was a fundamental reimagining of how adaptive systems could function. Captain Elena Rodriguez, monitoring the research from the Interstellar Adaptation Bureau, recognized the deeper significance. "We're not just solving problems," she noted in her report. "We're teaching technology how to be curious." Other breakthroughs followed rapidly. A communication system inspired by the way human musicians improvise. A medical nanite network designed using principles from urban planning and ecological systems. Each innovation challenged existing scientific understanding. The Galactic Confederation's research archives began to fill with entries marked with a new classification, human method, approach with caution and wonder. Dr. Varon, watching these developments, realized that humanity was doing more than advancing technology. They were fundamentally reimagining the relationship between intelligent beings and the systems they created. "They don't see technology as a tool," he recorded in his personal log. "They see it as a living, evolving partner in exploration." The scientific community was beginning to understand that humans weren't just another species to be studied. They were a force of creative destruction that would reshape galactic civilization in ways no one could predict. And they were just getting started. The transformation was subtle at first, then suddenly overwhelming. Humans didn't just integrate into galactic society, they reimagined it entirely. The Interstellar Infrastructure Reconfiguration Project became the most ambitious collaborative effort in recorded galactic history. Where most species saw complex systems as immutable, humans saw them as elaborate puzzles waiting to be solved. Dr. Zara Nakamura led the initial integration team. A systems engineer with an unconventional background that included urban planning, ecological design, and competitive puzzle solving, she approached the challenge with a holistic perspective that defied traditional scientific boundaries. "We're not just connecting systems," she would explain to increasingly bewildered alien administrators. "We're creating a living, breathing galactic network that can adapt and grow." The first major breakthrough came with transportation infrastructure. The existing faster-than-light travel systems were complex, inefficient, and desperately in need of reimagining. Most species had accepted these limitations as fundamental. Humans saw them as a challenge. Working with a team that included quantum physicists, network engineers, and, surprisingly, a group of urban transit designers from various Earth cities, they developed the Adaptive Transit Matrix. It wasn't just a transportation system, it was a living network that could reconfigure itself in real time. Ships no longer followed predetermined routes. Instead, they became part of a dynamic, self-optimizing system that could respond to changes instantaneously. Traffic jams became a thing of the past. Unexpected cosmic events could be navigated around with millisecond precision. The Galactic Confederation's Transportation Council was initially skeptical. Their representative, Ambassador Krell, watched the first demonstration with mounting disbelief. "This is impossible," he muttered, his tentacular appendages writhing with agitation. The demonstration was deceptively simple. A simulation that showed thousands of ships navigating through a complex region of space filled with gravitational anomalies, stellar storms, and unexpected quantum interference. Where previous systems would have required extensive rerouting and careful planning, the human-designed system simply flowed. Ships adapted. Routes shifted. The entire network breathed and moved like a living organism. But the transportation breakthrough was just the beginning. Communication systems underwent an equally radical transformation. The existing galactic communication network was a complex, hierarchical system that took weeks to transmit critical information across different star systems. Humans transformed it into something entirely different. Inspired by biological neural networks and the way human social media platforms shared information, they created the quantum conversation matrix. It wasn't just a communication system, it was a living, adaptive information ecosystem. Information now traveled not in rigid data packets, but in fluid, context-aware streams. Languages were translated in real time with nuanced understanding. Cultural contexts were preserved and celebrated, not just mechanically converted. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, now heading the Interstellar Adaptation Bureau, recognized the deeper significance of these changes. "We're not just connecting technologies," she explained during a pivotal conference. "We're creating a shared galactic consciousness." The economic implications were equally profound. Traditional galactic trade systems, which had been relatively static for millennia, began to transform. Human-inspired adaptive market models emerged, creating economic systems that could respond to changes with unprecedented speed and flexibility. Resource allocation, which had previously been a complex, bureaucratic nightmare, became a dynamic, real-time process. Entire planetary economies could now respond to changes with the agility of a living organism. Dr. Zelex Varin, watching these transformations, realized something fundamental had changed. Humanity wasn't just participating in galactic civilization. They were actively reimagining what civilization could be. "They don't see limitations," he recorded in his personal log. "They see potential waiting to be unleashed." The Great Adaptation was more than a technological revolution. It was a fundamental reimagining of how intelligent species could exist and interact. And humanity was just getting started. The first major interstellar challenge arrived unexpectedly, as most human-related events seem to do. The quantum cascade conflict began as a seemingly routine territorial dispute between the Xyloxian Confederacy and the Krellian orbital territories. Traditionally, such conflicts would have escalated into decades of diplomatic tension or limited military engagements. Humans, predictably, had a different approach. Captain Maya Rodriguez, no relation to the earlier Rodriguez, but carrying the same innovative spirit, was assigned as a neutral mediator. Her background was as unconventional as her approach, a former emergency room doctor with a doctorate in conflict resolution and an unexpected talent for quantum mathematics. The conflict centered around a strategically important star system rich in rare quantum reactive minerals. Historical protocols would have involved lengthy negotiations, economic sanctions, and potential military posturing. Maya saw an entirely different solution. "We're not going to solve this by drawing lines," she told the assembled diplomatic corps. "We're going to solve this by creating value neither of you has considered." Her proposal was audacious. Instead of dividing the resource-rich system, she proposed a collaborative development model that transformed the contested region into a shared innovation zone. The minerals would be extracted through a joint research initiative that benefited both species economically and scientifically. The Xyloxian representative, Ambassador Krint, initially scoffed. Impossible, he declared, his iridescent membrane flickering with diplomatic irritation. Maya's response was characteristic of human diplomatic innovation. She didn't argue. She demonstrated. Using a holographic projection that was part scientific model, part artistic representation, she showed how the mineral extraction could fund a joint research station. This wasn't just a compromise. It was an opportunity for both species to achieve something neither had imagined possible. The projection showed adaptive mining technologies that could extract resources while simultaneously conducting unprecedented scientific research. Quantum mapping technologies would be developed. Ecological restoration protocols would be implemented. The contested system would become more valuable as a collaborative research zone than as a territorial possession. What made the proposal truly revolutionary was its adaptive framework. The development model wasn't static. It was designed to evolve, with built-in mechanisms for continuous negotiation and mutual benefit. Dr. Zelex Varin, observing the negotiations, realized something profound was happening. Humans weren't just solving the immediate conflict. They were reimagining how intelligent species could interact. The quantum cascade conflict resolution became a landmark moment in galactic diplomacy. Within months, similar collaborative models began emerging across multiple star systems. But the true test came unexpectedly. A massive quantum anomaly threatened an entire sector of populated space. Traditional response protocols would have involved extensive committee meetings, risk assessments, and bureaucratic delays. The human integrated response teams acted differently. Led by Dr. Amara Okonkwo, a team of researchers from multiple species developed a solution in hours that would have previously taken decades. The approach was quintessentially human, part scientific brilliance, part creative improvisation, and entirely focused on practical problem-solving. The quantum anomaly was not just contained. It was transformed into a research opportunity that provided unprecedented insights into quantum mechanics. "We don't see threats," Dr. Okonkwo explained during the post-mission briefing. "We see complex systems waiting to be understood." The Galactic Confederation was slowly learning that humans brought more than technological innovation. They brought a fundamental reimagining of problem-solving. Conflict was no longer something to be avoided or managed. With humans involved, it became an opportunity for unprecedented collaboration and discovery. And they were just getting started. 50 years after first contact, the Galactic Confederation looked nothing like its previous incarnation. The transformation was so complete, so profound, that historians would later refer to this period as the Human Renaissance, a time when an entire galactic civilization was fundamentally reimagined. Dr. Zelex Varin, now in the twilight of his remarkable career, sat in the galactic archives, compiling the definitive historical record of humanity's integration. His crystalline exoskeleton had long since faded from its once vibrant colors, but his mind remained as sharp as ever. It wasn't just technological innovation he dictated to his neural transcription system. It was a complete philosophical revolution. The human approach had dismantled millennia of established thinking. Where previous galactic civilizations saw boundaries, humans saw possibilities. Where others saw limitations, humans saw challenges to be overcome. The Interstellar Collaborative Network, born from human-inspired adaptive technologies, now connected thousands of species in ways no one could have previously imagined. It was more than a communication system. It was a living, breathing galactic consciousness. Dr. Amara Okonkwo's great-granddaughter, Dr. Elena Okonkwo-Chin, now led the Quantum Consciousness Research Institute. Their current project explored something that would have been considered pure science fiction mere decades ago, a collaborative consciousness network that allowed multiple species to share experiences, knowledge, and perspectives simultaneously. "We're not just connecting technologies," she would explain to visiting researchers. "We're exploring the fundamental nature of intelligence and cooperation." The economic models developed during the Great Adaptation had transformed galactic resource management. Scarcity was becoming a concept of the past. Adaptive technologies allowed for unprecedented levels of resource generation and distribution. Planetary ecosystems that were once considered beyond repair were now thriving. The human approach of seeing challenges as opportunities had revolutionized ecological restoration. What was once a slow, bureaucratic process was now a dynamic, adaptive system of planetary rehabilitation. Military conflict, once a constant feature of galactic interactions, had become increasingly rare. The collaborative problem-solving approaches introduced by humans made traditional warfare seem increasingly obsolete. Why fight when you could innovate? Captain Maya Rodriguez's great-nephew, Alejandro Rodriguez, now led the Diplomatic Innovation Bureau. Their current mission involved mediating a potential conflict between three emerging species in the Andromeda sector. The approach was quintessentially human, part scientific analysis, part creative problem-solving, entirely focused on mutual benefit. Dr. Varon reflected on the journey. Humanity had done more than join the galactic community. They had fundamentally reimagined what community could mean. They didn't just adapt, he recorded in his final historical document. They transformed. Not through force, but through an unprecedented combination of creativity, empathy, and relentless curiosity. The human contribution wasn't just technological or scientific. It was philosophical. They had introduced a new way of seeing, a perspective that valued adaptation, collaboration, and continuous learning above all else. As the archive recording concluded, a holographic display flickered to life. It showed a network of stars, connected by pulsing lines of light, each connection representing a collaborative relationship, a shared moment of discovery, a mutual understanding. It was a map of a new kind of civilization. A civilization without boundaries. A civilization of endless possibility. And humanity was just getting started.